Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you have joined today. Welcome to ECOSOC Youth Forum event. This event is titled as the program is titled as Youth at the Forefront, Leveraging Science and Social Inclusion for Sustainable Development. This is a side event at the 2025 ECOSOC Youth Forum. And our topic is critical role of youth in driving sustainable development through the integrated rights framework, advancing science, social inclusion, and global partnership for COFAA's mission. This event is organized by the generous sponsor, Nature's Right, who has an ECOSOC consultative status, and the COFA Farmers Association, Cocoa Farmers Association Alliance of Africa, COFA, and Union Farms of Africa, UFA, and Global Sustainable Futures Network, GSFN. So let me tell about the context of the event. Africa's youth population is rapidly expanding, with over 60% of the continent's population under the age of 25. This demographic shift presents both an opportunity and a challenge. Young people are key drivers of economic transformation, social inclusion, and climate resilience. Yet, they face systemic barriers such as unemployment, gender inequality, and limited access to resources and technology. However, these challenges are symptoms of a deeper systemic issues, a model of development that prioritizes economic rights over human and planetary well-being, often excluding nature from legal recognition and governance structures. The COFA Alliance, in collaboration with key partners such as Nature's Right, Global Sustainable Futures Network, and Union Farms of Africa, is committed to addressing these challenges holistically and systematically, adopting the integrated rights framework as a guiding principle. Unlike traditional approaches that treat sustainability as a balancing act between human rights and economic growth, the integrated rights of framework recognizes that economic and human rights must be nested within and nature's right at the core of these rights. So by embedding nature's right as the foundation, we move beyond sustainability as mere damage reduction towards a generative model where economic inclusion, environmental justice, and governance flourish the ecosystem that serve rather than exploiting them. This session will explore how COFA, young-led science, policy innovation, and business models can align with nature's right to create regenerative economies, ensuring that economic and social systems thrive within primary boundaries. So the objective of the side event in relation to the SDGs guidelines in the identified in the guidelines of the Youth Forum, we are delivering on the three fronts, SDG 5, SDG 8, and SDG 17. SDG 5, as you know, gender equality, ensuring equal decision-making power in sustainability and regenerative governance. SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, which relates to regenerative economies and transforming employment and enterprise systems as they align with planetary boundaries. And SDG 17, global partnership for the goals, strengthening multi-sectoral collaboration for youth-led systemic change. Through these interventions or interactive discussion, this event will identify systemic barriers and opportunities for young-led sustainability initiatives through the lens of integrated rights framework, showcase best practices in integrating science, right-based approaches, and youth-driven innovations for COFA regenerative development, and foster multi-stakeholder partnerships that support young-led entrepreneurship, climate action, and governance transformation. So the main theme and challenge will be discussed through the lens of integrated rights framework, and we would focus on the right of economic inclusion and employment, where we would address some industry high-level structure inequalities. And we will also focus on regenerative economy, which is based on rights-based approach, where employment opportunities do not degrade but restore ecosystems. Secondly, we will have rights to gender equality in decision-making, focusing on women and marginalized groups to be included but not excluded from STEM fields, financial systems, and leadership roles, especially in the sectors such as COFA industry. And we would talk about the shift towards integrated rights governance, ensuring that the gender equality is not just about representation, but about empowering women as leaders in planetary stewardship, leading the COFA industry as an exemplar. And finally, we would speak about right to participate in global networks where weak institutional frameworks and soiled governance structures hinder young-led sustainability initiative. And we will focus on embedding nature's right in global governance, ensuring youth movements are not just included, but they are structurally powered in decision-making processes. And that is why we will now invite president and of COFA to give the welcoming remarks. Over to you, President.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Renuka, for that opening speech, and that must be a very brilliant one, and it actually explained and gave a more insight about what this side event is all about. And I think your explanation has definitely prepared every participant on what to discuss at this forum. And let me welcome everybody and on board the speakers, the participants, for joining and for seeing reasons why the youth are very critical in sustainable inclusions. And let me discuss that COFA, Cocoa Farmers Alliance Association of Africa, believe that the youth is a very critical in building a sustainable environment, and that something is very, and it aligns our visions of using the youth as agent of change to maintain and sustain the ecosystems is based on the SDGs goals of which have been enumerated, especially at the SDG 5, which is based on gender equality, the SDG 8, decent work on economic growth, and the SDG 17. And I think the framework of nations' models of making sure that the integrated right framework is the most critical model that aligns with the visions of COFA to make sure that sustainability has different legs, and these sustainable objectives could only be achieved if we use the right models. And of these models is about the regenerative economies that is very pivotal to sustaining the environment. And COFA being a pathfinder, a regional organization that believes in sustaining the incomes and protecting the interests of smallholder cocoa farmers in Africa, and believe that uh, the building a eco-friendly cocoa environment can only be sustainable if it is aligned with the core SDG, and with the strengthening some of these legs of sustainable goals that protect our ecosystem family. And there are a lot of things that we came up with. And when we look critically into some of the integrated right framework, we look at it that it prioritizes some of the interests of the environment above humans' activities, above humans' focus. And it doesn't, when whatever areas of protecting the interests of the youth means that the nature must be protected holistically. And that is why, as a cocoa farmer, your environment must be what? Be protected. That's why the issue of agroforestry and protecting the natures and making sure that we agroecology sometimes embedded in our farm practices. And some of these agroecology that involve our cocoa trees and other plantations gives room for our youth to be able to be a pathfinder of maintaining these processes. And it also makes sure that we strengthen the women and along who are also vulnerables, because when we are talking about sustainability and we do not emphasize the nation's areas of vulnerability as we advance interests of the society. So the advancement of the interests of sustainability above nature's protections that does not align with planetary survival, it is therefore not acceptable to COFA. So one of these COFA focus, and COFA try as much as possible to collaborate and believe in strengthening the sectoral collaborations that is youth-centric that protects the environment. So the other way of differentiating COFA beliefs is that the environment take priorities, and it now build it around developing the youth who are more vulnerable, because these are the when you are improving and talking about improving the survival of of our the planet, we look at it that the youth are very pivotal in making sure that they are not endangered, because the moment they are endangered, the youth might therefore endanger the planet. And this might definitely create issues for nations' protections. So that is more reasons that we believe that the focus of protections of the youth rights, the gender equality, and so on and so forth, must make sure that it prioritizes nature's rights above any other rights that comes thereafter. So it involves a kind of a win-win situations whereby we make sure that whatever we are doing as an organization in Africa, it aligns with protections of the ecosystems holistically, that brings ecosystems as a priority in protecting our environment through the vulnerable groups. And what are the vulnerable groups? The critical roles of youth in protections and in economic values, and at the same time, the gender of the women that are also what? They built the nations through their responsibilities and their contributions. So therefore, this SDG 5, SDG 8, SDG 17 has been a core, and we are now redirecting our focus of placing our ecosystems and the planet above every other priorities, whether it is we are making money in profitability, in any other ways of doing it. It takes a preeminence. It takes prominence in whatever decisions making. So we definitely agree as an organization in Africa, and to make sure that this is a step. What we should do is to make sure that every country that COFAN has, every country that COFAN has chapters, where we have Ivory Coast, we have Ghana, we Nigeria, we have Cameroon, and we have Uganda, we have Togo, and these countries, we will definitely make sure that we prioritize and work with the Nations Rights Foundation to align these interests of prioritizing our ecosystem protections above every other practices that establishes humans activities in line with sustainability. So let me not take much of our time in order for the various speakers to do justice to this event. The objectives, like I've emphasized, has always been well captured by COFA in our activities, in our structure, in protections of the cocoa ecosystems, and achieving a greater impact as far as Africa is concerned. And Africa today produces 70% of the global cocoa environment, cocoa productions, and it shows how important that COFA and our members are what very important to this our focus of achieving a sustainable planet that prioritizes the nation's rights. So the multi-stakeholders collaborations for systemic change and so on, we redefine it, and we are ready to collaborate with the experts and to achieve these sustainable goals that brings that prioritizes nature rights above any other rights, and brings in anchoring the protections of the youth and the women in creating a safe cocoa environment that ecosystem takes the center stage. Thank you very much, and this is exactly what I have to welcome you again, and this is just about my keynote contributions to this event. Thank you. God bless
Thank
you.
you. Thank you so much, President. I'm very pleased that it comes from the President of COFA, a very high level, but also very holistic approach that is coming forward. We are pleased to have you, and we'll continue to listen to. So now I will invite Mumta Ayato, founder of Nature's Right Foundation, and I would invite her to present her very innovative approach, but also I think it is rested in plenty of traditional ethos and ethical principles. Welcome, Mumta.
Thank you. Thank you. First of all, I want to say how blown away I was by your speech. you've just encapsulated everything that I wanted to say and how it relates to COFAAA so beautifully. So what I will do is I will start with an exercise to get us into that tangible connection with nature. Because if we are going to be talking about nature, we really need to feel nature in our being. So I invite everybody to close your eyes and just take a deep breath and connect with your heart. And then just feel your heart connecting with the heart of the earth. And then feel that connection with the heart of the cosmos. The connection with the hearts of everybody in this circle and everybody in our wider circles. And then spreading out to the whole human race, our ancestors, our future generations, and then connecting with the hearts of all beings everywhere. And just feeling this tangible connection, being held in this intricate web of life. Because it's this web of life that sustains us all. There are universal principles that govern all life. And when we align with them, we create a cycle of peace, harmony, and prosperity for all of life. When we are not aligned, we create a spiral of destruction, as we can see in the world today. All societies that have ignored this truth have perished. And this is the wisdom of all of our ancestors, including our ancestors from Africa, who embodied the Ubuntu philosophy. Mike and I also, I'm one of the leading experts in the rights of nature in Europe. I'm a UN Harmony with Nature expert, and I'm a lawyer, founder of Nature's Rights and developer of the Integrated Rights Framework. But I also have a personal connection with Africa. I'm actually South African. I was born in South Africa, and my family have been there for 5 generations. And I feel that the African indigenous values and African indigenous cultures have a lot to teach the world in terms of interconnectedness, understanding that I am because you are, and just in being able to demonstrate what a real regenerative culture could look like for the world. So I'm really feeling that this partnership that we will take forward with COFAAA could become a beacon for what a regenerative cocoa industry could look like and inspire other industries around the world. So I'm going to today talk a little bit more about the legal structures that drive things in the way that they are. So the situation that COFAAA is trying to address really gets to the heart of the structural injustice in the global supply chains. And this is not just in the cocoa industry, but it's in many industries that we can find. And the integrated rights framework offers a structural solution. It offers a lens and a pathway for transforming these global injustices at its very root. So I'm just going to share my screen. Unfortunately, my presentation packed out, and so I had to quickly put one together in a Google Doc. I hope you can see the diagrams okay. And I'm going to see how I can navigate through
Yes,
this.
we can see.
Brilliant.
And it is navigating.
Great. So if we think of our society as an iceberg, all of the crises, the polycrises that we are experiencing, the ecological crisis, the inequality, poverty, pandemics, ill health, climate crisis, food crisis, economic crisis, sixth mass extinction, they're just the visible results. They're at the top of the iceberg. But what we don't see are all of the invisible structures that create this and how, by excluding nature from our legal systems as a subject in its own right, and from our system of rights, how it leads to this injustice. If we look beneath the surface of the water, we have silo systems and structures which create fragmentation. So you've got agriculture, economy, all working separate to each other, which comes from a mechanistic paradigm where the earth is seen as a machine, where almost like items in a shopping cart, which in turn comes from a separation consciousness, which is encoded in law. So this idea that environment is out there, nature is out there, and I'm over here, human being, is driven into law, which actually, if we look one step deeper, all comes from trauma, this trauma of being separated from the land, which was caused by things, phenomena like the enclosures here in Europe, and then got exported as colonialism and so on. So this whole thing leads to what I call a degenerative cycle, which is self-reinforcing. So you have your separation consciousness, which comes from trauma, encoded in law, giving rise to scarcity and inequality, this mechanistic paradigm which splits everything up in silos, the nature out there, humans here, economy there, which gives rise to all the degenerative structures, the concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a few, agriculture and food systems that poison the earth and people, economies based on infinite growth and consumerism, energy that depletes nature faster than she can replenish, systems operating in isolation to each other, no accountability, and the laws are all separate. And that fuels all of the crises that we saw. So this just drives scarcity, fear, and competition, and ultimately it's a death cycle. And what it's led to here are the planetary boundaries. Now, the Stockholm Institute quantified where we are in terms of a safe operating space for humanity. In 2009, 3 of these boundaries were already crossed. By 2015, this had extended to 4 boundaries crossed. But in 2023, we are now 6 out of 9 planetary boundaries crossed. So what this means is that we can no longer think in silos, because one planetary boundary transgression has a knock-on effect with everything else. So it's not just climate change, which is the issue here. There's biodiversity, there's the nitrogen phosphorus cycles, everything is interconnected. And all these planetary boundary violations are human caused. So we need to get our economic systems working within that green zone on the diagram. And where they are now is in this orange and red zone. So we have collectively a lot of work to do. And this cycle and this iceberg that we looked at, the degenerative cycle, is actually fueling this. And if the Earth system is pushed dramatically, it will evolve in a way so that human life becomes untenable. So there will be no future for our youth. And we don't want that. And it's perfectly in our hands to reverse this, because planetary boundaries violations can be reversed and the Earth can rebalance itself. We just need to alleviate the pressure. So with nature's rights, we are acting right at the bottom of the iceberg. Most of our societal solutions and even the SDGs, where in the way that they operate at the moment, and our governments and all that, act at the top of the iceberg. They act in the crisis management. But what we are doing is we say, to get a really systemic result, you have to operate right at the base of the iceberg on that separation consciousness. And we need to drive that in laws, so we get laws and policies that are coming from a place of interconnection. So in other words, in the context of Africa, we are making laws and policies that understand our relationship with nature as the very foundation and root of the way our economies operate. And that then leads to a regenerative cycle. So here, if we look at the regenerative iceberg, what we have is, if we start at the root, you have the healing of trauma, because once we recognize that we are part of an interconnected whole, the healing process can begin. And that gives rise to this unity consciousness that we are all one, we are all in it together. Even science is showing this with the planetary boundaries, that I cannot be okay and the other one is not okay, because ultimately the planetary boundaries is going to take everybody out of the equation if we don't get together and collectively do something about the problem, which involves the rules of the game. And the rules of the game is the law, because the law is the rules that dictate how our society is going to operate. And this is where I feel, the countries that have these, still have these strong ancestral connections and knowledge, like Africa, can really lead the way in creating a non-colonial form of law that is more aligned with our ancestral values and indigenous values and common sense and science. So here, the unity consciousness, when we encode that in law, it gives rise to a holistic paradigm or whole a worldview where the human being is part of the web of life. So it means that our economies operate in a way that promotes human well-being and the well-being of nature. This gives rise to whole system structures. So you get integration. You don't get economic policies acting against nature. They all become one cohesive whole, and that drives positive outcomes on autopilot. So you get multiple benefits just from this one shift in our governance framework at a very deep level. So you get regenerative economies, thriving biodiversity, thriving ecosystems, food security resilience, climate resilience, health and well-being, pandemic resilience. And why do we get all this? Because we are part of nature. When nature thrives, we too thrive once we start to embed those values in. And that gives rise to this reinforcing cycle, which I call the regenerative cycle. So, what does this look like in terms of sustainability and the SDGs? Well, we look at our current sustainability model, this picture on the left. You've got nature, you've got people, you've got economy. Now, for our development to be sustainable, all three have to be in balance. But at the moment, they are not in balance because only people and economy have representation in the legal system as legal entities, as legal subjects with rights. Nature is a commodity. It's there for the taking. It's to be exploited. It's a kind of slavery relationship in a way with the land, and this is why we have the problem. And of course, nature will rebalance itself, and it may rebalance itself. Well, most likely rebalance itself in a way that makes it very difficult for us to continue in this planet, and so we don't want that. So the way is to align with those universal laws, to align with nature. And we start there. If we look at the rules that govern our society, it's the law. So if we look at rights, we've got human rights, we've got corporate and property rights, but nature has no rights. And even if we look at this and we think, okay, we bring nature's rights as well, then we have to think about what relationship do we have with nature, because we are not in adversarial relationship with nature, and our current westernized legal system is an adversarial system. It's not about problem solving. It's about blaming and retribution and fining and putting people in prison. But that doesn't take us forward. So here, if we look at the rights again, economic, corporate, and property rights are actually stronger in law than human rights, because it's enforceable against private actors as well as governments. Human rights are only enforceable against governments. So if you bring nature's rights and they are more like human rights, they won't be enforceable against corporations. So we have an injustice there. And also, if we only have to rely on bringing court cases, it's not going to be very effective. So in the nature's rights model, we say, well, this model of the current sustainability model, it's assuming that people, economy, and nature are all independent partners, and they can operate independently of each other. But we know that's not the case. Actually, that's not the relationship. The right relationship that we have with nature that reflects the reality of our existence is that nature is the foundation of life, because without nature, there's no human society. Without human society, there is no economy. So there's a natural hierarchy of systems. And from there comes a natural hierarchy of rights. So you have the rights of nature as the foundation. Human rights are a subsystem of that. I mean, the rights of all the other beings would exist in this too, because they all have a right to thrive and to exist in this planet. And our human economic rights are a subsystem of the human rights. So here you've got economy embedded within human rights and embedded within nature. And what that means in practice is that you couldn't use your economic rights in a way that bring human suffering and suffering to nature, because you'd be unraveling the whole. So this rights-based system is a collaborative rights system. So the rights work in synergy to support each other, not against each other. And this is the integrated rights framework. So what I've done is I've taken those 3 layers and mapped out the UN Sustainable Development Goals on there, the planetary boundaries as the 4th circle. So we've been talking about sustainability for decades, but the UN Sustainable Development Goals still haven't been reached. And one of the criticisms is that it doesn't take rights into account. Also, one of the criticisms of nature's rights is that that people think it's against human rights or against economic rights. So with this framework, which we created for the European Economic and Social Committee, what we've done is we brought the metrics and we brought the qualitative aspect, the rights, we brought that together into one integrated framework, all within planetary boundaries. So the economic rights serve human well-being and serve the well-being of nature. And so how does that model, translate to the cocoa value chain? So in a degenerative cocoa value chain, you've got extractive supply chains, which are profit-driven. That's for economy. For people, you've got low prices and exploitation of farmers. And for nature, you've got destruction of ecosystems. Lose, lose, lose. If we look, by contrast, at a regenerative or an integrated rights-based cocoa value system, for economy, you've got regenerative value chains with co-creation. For people, you have fair compensation and farmers' rights. And for nature, you have protection of ecosystems. So you have win, win, win. And so with that in mind, I want to stop sharing my slide. I'm not sure exactly how to stop sharing my slide. Let's see. It's up here. Yeah. So with that in mind, I want to make a powerful call to action to COFAAA that really, by endorsing the integrated rights framework, you can be a force for so much more. You can be a force for a new regenerative model that can be extrapolated to many other industries. You could really shine the beacon for the future generations of what a regenerative cocoa industry really looks like. So I would like to invite you to endorse the integrated rights framework, and the endorsement form is on the website, but I can also send that to you, and also to ask all the farmers who are in this alliance to embed the framework and use it as a guiding principle, embed it into your business models. And like that, we can start to raise awareness and also to become a pressure group that starts to push governments to start thinking in this new and more enlightened way of how we can create laws and policies that ensure a thriving future for all life on Earth. So with that, thank you, and I hand over to the next speaker.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you.
for dwelling into the, this nature's right framework and explaining how it relates to, of course, everyone, but relates to COFAAA and the call for endorsement. So thank you very much. I think President wants to speak a word. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Renuka, and let me appreciate our last speaker, and who has done a very great justice to the nation's rights. And let me just say, I think this is Muta Ito,
Yes.
founder of nation's rights. And I think this is exactly like I said, it gave us more insights about what nations' right is about, especially the difference between the SDG, and the nations' rights, which I said it prioritizes the protections of nature. And you have always give us the background for us to look at how it works, how if the nations are not protected, it's a kind of makes our youth vulnerable because it destroys the world, and those are the youth, the how do I say, they suffered most. And I agree entirely, and that the COFA alliance and our focus, it aligns with what nature's right is all about. Like I talk about agroecology, I talk about the need to make sure that when we are producing cocoa, it protects our ecosystems, which is a priority. And you have also said about this issue of living incomes. It's also a prioritized area to make sure that the farmers are also well remunerated in whatever they are doing. And like you said lastly, that you need COFA to subscribe, to make sure that we subscribe to this nation's rights framework, which I believe the board members, most of them are there. My national secretary, my general secretary is also there. And so I think we are definitely going to meet at the board level and look into this and take a very good decisions in making sure that not only COFA subscribes and agree with this framework, we also encourage all our farmers in our alliance all over the cocoa origin countries in Africa also what subscribe to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I will invite now Aben Malviz Anup to speak on the right to gender equality in decision making. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes,
Can
we
you
can
hear
hear
me?
you. Please
Yes,
carry on.
we can hear you.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on the youth event. And I really want to appreciate Dr. and the president of COFA for creating this platform for youth voice to be heard and others to learn so many things concerning the cocoa industry, which I believe is one of the sector in which there's a lot of investment and it's very income generating. So thank you. I'm Aben Mavis, an environmentalist, and also I promote the rights of women and girls. So I'll be speaking on ensuring gender equalities ensuring gender equality in decision making within the African cocoa industry. So, like I said, the cocoa sector is a private enterprise, and it is open for men and women to invest. And in that line, we have to, there is a need for us to pay attention to the needs of the men and the women cocoa farmers, their needs and their challenges, so as to be able to set up gender sensitive interventions and program to shape the sustainability of this domain. However, in Africa, cocoa farmer sector, it is being realized and seen that it is a male dominant activity. It is considered as a male dominant activity, and women constitute about 25%. Yeah, the women cocoa farmers constitute about 25%. And according to the African Development Bank, women do about 70% of the work and receive about 20% of income. So in that light, you see that women are they are often faced, the women farmers are faced with several barriers. And this is a form of vulnerability in this domain, which I believe limits their potential, their leadership potential to be able to involve in decision making in this domain. So in order to address these imbalances and gender inequality, to foster sustainable development and innovation in this sector, there is a need to address these barriers. Some of these barriers are like discriminative law, social norms, and social norms and customs, and lack of gender policy, a defined gender policy and quotas, maybe in the African cocoa sector, and also the lack of women land rights. We know in Africa, women don't have they don't have access to land. Most women, they don't have access to land, and also access to finance and credit, which is very limited in the side of women. And this really weighed a vulnerable aspect in the life of women to able to foster more in this industry. So, and also women, if you look at the supply chain of cocoa, if you look at very well the supply chain, you realize that women are not found in certain levels of a supply chain. It is seen that women are often excluded, maybe at the level of sales, at the level of, so these really have an effect in them making prices, making decision with respect to prices, taking decision with respect to prices. And I grew up from a cocoa farming background. My father was a teacher, and he was transferred to the southwest of Cameroon. That's where cocoa is, in one of the villages. And he owned a farm. I only come in at the level where they were breaking cocoa, where they are breaking cocoa. And I saw that it's really that women and young girls are really, they found themselves on certain stages, not in all the stages. So in order to ensure the right of gender equality in decision making within this African cocoa industries, the following has to be reinforced. There's a need to adopt and reinforce a gender sensitive policy for the African cocoa industry. That is, promote women and girls empowerment in training, in leadership, and also integrating them and training them. Most of them lack knowledge on leadership. They lack knowledge in financial literacy. They lack knowledge in marketing. They lack knowledge in the technical know-how of the cocoa farming itself. So they need to be a capacity building program for that, to be able to so that they can rightly integrate themselves in this sector. And also try to educate this underrepresentative, women, maybe women, girls, depending on the country, like in Ghana and in Cote d'Ivoire and Cameroon, that I really made a study, realize that the barriers, they really need to educate women that this domain is not a domain, it's not a male dominant domain. True, women also can also leverage their potentials and come in families where we have girls that are growing up, and there is a need to educate them. There's a need to give them resources. There is a need for them to find themselves in the chain and be able to make exploits. Because at this level, adolescent girls, they are prone to gender-based violence, to early marriages, and they still find themselves in the same circle of work, and having very poor wages. So there's also the need for the African cocoa sector to address the low paid with respect to women and girls. Women are, from statistics, women are paid, they are not well paid as respect to men. So there's a need to address, because this really discourage most of them to get into this sector. Also, there's a need to strengthen the reforms of women land rights and financial access. We know land, if you don't have a land, you can't be able to, it's like a collateral to the bank or to access loan. So when you have a land right, you can be able to access maybe a loan to have it to prepare your farm. Most women, they consider themselves maybe they are weak, but if they have the financial resources or the aid, they can be able to even rent a farm and also be able to clear it and also be able to participate. There is a project carried out by the Interprofessional Council of Cocoa and Coffee project in the East region in Cameroon. This project gave out 74 hectares of land to 74 women. So it was under a Royal Cocoa Women Program. So it really boosted many of such women, their capacity to be able to have the opportunity to be able to participate fully in this domain. It is very, very important. It is true that the women work and the men get a greater part of the share of the process. And of course, even at the level of the cooperative, realize that the representation is low. So with this opportunity of them owning a land, they can also be able to represent, to be able to speak, and to be able to contribute into this domain. And there is also the need to promote and invest in STEM education and research for women and girls to leverage their skills and develop green industries to correlate generative solutions to sustainability challenges in this domain. Us as youth students going to school, we are in the youth forum, and from the president's speech, you see the president, speech of COFAAA, he says, the youths and the women, they are the vulnerable, and there's a safe space in the cocoa industry to protect them. Yeah, so there's a need for this field to be open, I believe this platform is creating an awareness. I remember when the prices of cocoa went up, a lot of boys, men around me, that they were doing other things, they decided to, we are going back to work cocoa. I want to, we want to go back to the cocoa, but fewer women found this like an opportunity to go back to like this is a lucrative something. So there's a need for this field to be open, new opportunities, and let research be birthed. Green industries, what are the machines, STEM, what are the different machines that can be produced to help in the different line? Women can, I believe, if they encourage this field and they will talk more about it, many girls and women, they can be able to pick innovative ideas and be able to produce something. And also there is a need for initiative that will empower women and girls. They should always, I know maybe in the the Farmers Association, they should be able to do some kind of training that women are involved, men are involved, so that as to encourage also women not to found they only know that they have to dwell more on domestic duties and come and work, but they should also see themselves being active in the supply chain of the cocoa sector. Also, there should be programs that mentorship programs and networking opportunities to support women leaders. The women that are already pathfinding in this domain, they should be able to speak. They should be able to encourage young girls to be able to come forth in this domain. This is a very economic venture. It's a very lucrative domain. It's a domain that gives leverage for finance, and it also, from what I studied in the RED project, that cocoa is zero deforestation activity. It means it takes care of the environment, it's climate resilient. So it's a domain that really work in nature's right, like what the madam presented. Is a domain that really work in nature's right, and we should be able to encourage a lot of women and young people into this domain. There is also the need to create accountability mechanisms such as gender audits and reporting. There's a need for data. There's a need for data because this gender data is going to help us to assess the gender equity, and also to be able to look at the transformation that is going on in the cocoa sector. Yes, we look at the roles of men and women. What are they doing? We look at the responsibilities. What are the evolving challenges? And how can we come in to be able to moderate this? Also, the need to implement and fund gender responsive next generation projects for women and girls to be able to promote sustainability initiative. There is a need for this, the African cocoa industry to be able to create programs. When you see goggles, they are coming up, the IT industries are coming up, they are creating up next generation programs, they open it to girls and boys, and they are teaching them. It's the same thing that this domain can be able to open opportunities.
Can we
and this is going to, I believe, is going to close the gender gap.
Abin, can you conclude, please?
So, okay. So thank you very much. So there's a need for us to create a just, resilient, a social, inclusive, and a sustainable cocoa supply chain that can accelerate, that men and women can be able to accelerate and leverage their potential. Youth, women, we're closing the gender gap. We were breaching the gender gap in productive and reproductive, be able to enhance the visibility of women. We empower them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to invite now Prince Justine to speak on the right to participate in global networks. Thank you.
To this wonderful webinar. Yeah, I think the right to participate on global network is something that remains very critical when it comes to development, especially around Cameroon and Africa at large. It has been noticed most of the initiatives that are going around. You take the case of carbon credit, which I'm deeply immersed into it. It has always been from the south, from the north to the south. That means the north decides on how the carbon credit market looks like, and at the level of the south, we are left just to implement, which makes it really not fair. If you look at the cocoa market in which we are deeply concerned with, we are discussing about today, look at the pricing mechanism. Look at those who buy and trade with cocoa. You see, the price needs to be regulated from somewhere. And in Africa, where we produce cocoa, we are only from the north have been set daily. The price is 1,000 francs per kilo. They will send the price to country levels, and the country levels will take them and send it down to the farmers. You now see that we, the farmers, we are left with very little decision-making opportunities when it comes to the price, or we are not even on the negotiation board when those prices are being made. And I think there is something that needs to be done when it comes to this. Because if you are a producer and you cannot determine the price, it's very difficult to make your activity sustainable, because you who produces know how much you invest in producing a product. So it's better for you to sit in a decision table with the guy who consumes your project, so that your product, so that you can agree on the price of the final product. So I think there is a gap, a big gap between our farmers when it comes to our rights in pricing our commodities. Look at the role of middleman too in the cocoa industry. The middleman in the cocoa industry is the person who makes the real money. And the farmers, on the other hand, they are left with peanuts. You can imagine that a middleman sitting in his office who never goes to the farm will collect products from our farmers, and then he will negotiate with the end buyer which price to sell to them, and gives only a small portion of this money to the farmers. So we are saying that the rights of our farmers needs to be considered a lot when it comes to issues of negotiating price, issues of global policies. They need to participate so that everything will be balanced. If not, you will see the cocoa industry is growing, but to me, I see it growing at the regression, because it's true, the farms are expanding, the prices are going up, but what about the average farmers? You still see them, they are unable to send their kids to school, they are unable to have a regular maybe for the rest of 8 months. Like in Cameroon, cocoa peak is between October, November, December. You see, that is the moment when farmers have access to money. And after this time, they will have no money for the rest of the year, and they wait till the other part, to the other year when the cocoa starts again. In one of the programs we did, we call it the Farmers Business School. We had over 5,000 farmers trained, cocoa farmers, and you'll be shocked that some of them were ready to destroy their farms to go into products like maize and other things, because they realized at the end of the day that they were just making money for one master who is somewhere that we don't know. Because if you go into the industry like in Cameroon, you have, I think, principal buyers that goes on daily market to regulate their prices, and then they report to the farmers or to the farmers cooperative. The price in Douala is this price, so you have to buy only at this price. And these cooperatives, they are left with no powers to bargain those prices. They will just follow those prices that are made. So I think as COFAAA, we really need to look at this. And one of the recommendations that have succeeded is to empower these cooperatives financially. We need to empower these cooperatives financially. We need to have mechanisms that these cooperatives can trade their cocoa into the international market themselves, like what we are trying to look at now with the ZAMAC. It's a trading platform, it's a commodity exchange platform where farmers could go inside, register their products, and they sell them directly to the. It will really help to protect your rights. Another big gap we have, it's difficult in many didn't ask a farmer to tell us how many cocoa trees do you have in your farm, what is the land space of this farm, how do you want to expand this farm. They don't have this information, because the end buyers end up getting bulk of the money. If you even give farmers a small training that, okay, you can do this training for 6 months, maybe it will just be $100 or $50. You see the farmers end up not having this money to pay, but not because they are not having the money, but because somebody in the other end is using that money for wrong reason. For us as COFAAs to look into those mechanisms that will permit us to empower our farmers. Like one of the trainings we did, we call it the Farmers Business School, transforming farmers to agribusinesses. It's very important because every entrepreneur at the end of the day needs to be an agribusiness person, because if you have a product that you cannot sell it or you don't know where to sell it, this way you see that a lot of those farmers' rights are being violated. So I think this is what I prepared for this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to invite now policy Uday Dilip Rao Kadam to speak on strengthening public-private partnership for regenerative change.
Hi everybody. I hope I'm visible.
Yes, a little bit darker side on your might
Let
be
me
good
quickly
in
begin.
light. Yes, that's better. That's better. Continue, please.
Just I hope now it's better.
Yes, perfect. Please
Yeah.
continue.
Give me a second, please. Sorry, I was in rush. Yeah. So hi everybody. I'm really honored. I'm really honored to be a part of this forum, and thank you everybody for giving us this opportunity. So, a topic is the policy making for regenerative economics, right? And how we can do public-private partnerships into the regenerative economy. So, the most important point which I want to highlight is, if there is no earth, there is no business. If there is no business, then there is no profit. No government, no taxation. So the most important question we all need to ask every element who is a living element on the earth is, so for what we are doing everything. Now I think it's time. We all need to think that it's time that must make nature as the partner, nature as the legal partner, the equity holder in every business. I hope it's agreeable by everybody. And it's obvious. Why it's obvious? Because any partnership is formed based on what kind of resources are given by somebody or some entities. And I would like to reiterate one important thing: whatever we get, the most important resources we are getting from nature, and the most important resources are invested by nature in us, in our economies, in our businesses, right? But now it's time. We should not take it granted. We should really not take it granted. And we must change the thought process, the way we are thinking about nature as a partner. Now, the most important part, like a lot of dignitaries already told, that we are taking a good steps towards regenerative economy. We are trying to re-understand regenerative economy, right? So, in this perspective, I would like to mention few things. Like whenever we are making policies, whenever any businesses or any government associations or any government who are making policy, they must consider the first important factor, that is inequality, the disconnection, the digital divide, which we already have, right? So little bit information can save lives, little bit information can save crops, little bit information can save our farmers. And that's very important. Farming should prosper. And we are working towards it along with Dr. Renuka Thakur to have a bridge between experts and our farmer friends. And that will be and that should be considered as a most important policy by government as well, and governments also should invest in how information and how most important information is flowing to farmers. And by doing this, we just don't need to build a partnership, but we need to rebuild trust. We need to rebuild our systems and the soil beneath our feet, and take care of air around us. These are the most important factors which are really important, which should be considered into public-private partnership. And obviously all the triple P's, all the public-private partnership must go beyond profit sharing. They must become a planet service. And if we look at PPPs, we really don't need more PPPs that extract, but we need public-private partnership that help us regenerate. And regenerative change isn't just about doing less harm. It's about redesigning economies to heal what's broken socially, ecologically, and spiritually. And as an IT engineer, as a software engineer, and as a farmer, we think that the flow of information, the information dissemination plays the most important role in this. Now, so how we can strengthen public-private partnership? So as I started, we need to make nature a legal partner. We really need to think about that. And we need to embed nature's rights into every agreement, every contract that is being done. And that every contract, every business agreement must consider first system that it should serve ecosystem first as a nature's first right, and not just the economies. And we should be thinking not only about GDPs, but the greener economies, the greener earth, the regenerative earth. And when we make nature as a stakeholder, and definitely regeneration becomes a non-negotiable. Then second part is investing in regenerative workforce. We need public-private partnership that focuses on upskilling the youth in climate tech, agro-technology, and the circular economy model. Every green job that is created is basically healing act towards the things which we owe to our mother earth. And every skilled youth is a solution in the motion. So let's create innovation hubs where AI meets our ancestral wisdom, where rural women lead soil restoration, and where youth-run cooperatives shape the value chain from seed to sustainability and the eternal prosperity. Then third important point is redesigning the governance. Redesigning governance with youth at the core is also the important factor which we need to consider. And we often as a senior, youth are often consulted but not empowered. We must go on the table with our youth force because they are quite faster than us. They know what exactly needs to be done, when it needs to be done. We just need to empower them. And we just can't involve in the process, but we need to build the processes and policies around the youth. Now, when PPBs are built with youth leadership, transparency, tech access, and we all can see the policies, and around those policies, trust will definitely follow. So now what we should move beyond ESG checklist to ecosystem centered cooperation, and need to create systems where profit restores and not deplete. If public-private partnerships are the bridge, then regeneration must be the direction. And obviously, our youth leadership is not only the passenger, but they are the compass. I think that's it from my side. And apart from this, we really need to think how these policies are earth-centered, youth-centered. That's it, ma'am, from my side.
Thank
I
you. Thank you so much. Thank you
thank you,
so
ma'am.
much. I would like to now invite Olanian Olalekan Emunal to speak on promoting youth-led scientific innovation and nature-aligned enterprises. Over
Okay,
to
thank
you.
you, ma. Yeah, thank you, ma. So I am Olanino Olalekan Emmanuel, and it's a great pleasure to be on this platform. I will be speaking on the topic promoting youth-led scientific innovation and nature-allied enterprise. This topic is more than a call to action. It is indeed a blueprint for a future that is bold, sustainable, and youth-driven. But before I proceed, I would like to give clarification to the keywords youth-led, scientific innovation, and nature-allied enterprises. Now, in as much as the context we're talking about is on cocoa farming, then the youth-led refers to young Africans that are leading the way. That is, young Africans that are designing solutions, running enterprises, and shaping agricultural futures. Why scientific innovations has to do with the using of modern science, tech, and research, from climate smart agriculture to AI-powered pest control to increase productivity and sustainability. Now, talking about nature-allied enterprises, it refers to businesses that do not fight with nature, but they work with it. That is, they work with nature. They regenerate ecosystems, reduce waste, honor biodiversity, and build circular green economics. Therefore, this topic I'm speaking on calls for advancing efforts that empower young Africans to lead in creating innovative scientific solutions and environmentally responsible enterprise that aligns with nature and contribute to sustainable development. And the better place to apply this vision is the cocoa farming sector, which is an industry deeply rooted in African soil, culture, and potential. It's no longer a news that Africa produces 70% of the world's cocoa, yet many of our farmers remain underpaid, under-resourced, and aged. But thanks to the youths, they are flipping the narratives, they are changing the story. Across Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Cameroon, youths are reinventing cocoa farming through the use of drone mapping, organic soil enhancers, blockchain for traceability, solar dryers, to mention a few. We have one inspiring example in Ghana, which is known as Herbapreneur Solutions under the Herbaphosa initiative. This startup focuses on training young farmers in the use of solar dryers to enhance their agricultural practices. Through this initiative, the startup aims to promote climate action in Ghana's agriculture sector by decentralizing solar dryer technology. We have another example in Togo, which is known as the Agri-Youth Hub in Togo. This startup also designed small cocoa processing units using renewable energy and bio-based packaging. This startup, the innovation resulted in reducing deforestation and adds value locally and also cuts down post-harvest losses. But innovation like this needs talent, they need support and partnership. And here is where I believe COFAAA can come in to play a transformative role by serving as a continental platform to showcase and scale youth-led innovations. Number two, they can advocate for policy reforms that prioritize youth leadership in sustainable cocoa farming. Three, they can partner with institutions to offer training in climate smart practices and digital agriculture tailored for young farmers. And also they can facilitate access to green finance and the use of ethical markets. Also, COFAAA can embed youth voices into its governance, thereby ensuring that young people are not just contributors, but they are co-creators of Africa's cocoa future. Now, here is my call to action for development according to SDG 17, which has to do with partnership. Number one, the government should invest in agri-tech incubators and research grants tailored to young cocoa farmers. The private sector should partner with youths, create fair trade supply chains that reward sustainability, and to young Africans, let's reclaim agriculture as innovation, let's reshape the story. Let's build cocoa enterprises that nourish our economies and our ecosystem. Take note, cocoa isn't just a commodity. It's a chance to lead the world in sustainable agriculture. Let's grow not just beans, but businesses, not just exports, but ecosystem, and not just incomes, but the impacts we have for the world to see. On this note, I say thank you. I'll be ending my topic on this discussion. I will have to put it to an end here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, I will be talking on multi-stakeholder collaboration for systemic change. And so I feel that, we have to sow the seeds of transformations for youth empowerment through this multi-stakeholder engagement in Africa cocoa sector. So what I would like to say that there is, and of course, everyone, all the speakers have emphasized the need to empower the youth, but it should be inclusive multi-stakeholder engagement within this, let us say, Cocoa Alliance. While we are, integrating several theories, but it also be integrated practically on ground. And that is what we need. We need millions of young people who are striving to do some innovation, be on a creative front, increase their competitive edge in businesses or enterprise. Let them all be invited and attracted towards this farming, because farming typically has been traditional business which is losing the interest of youth because it is traditional. But I think we can bring digitalization, we can bring multi-stakeholder engagement, which would allow them to increase their engagement to the multidisciplinary people, multidisciplinary level, and multidisciplinary, like innovations, technologies, and all that can be brought in for farming. Because not only farming, it is not only farming, but it is also about restoring the nature, as we have seen, as we have heard from last all speakers emphasizing the need for nature. Nature is the ecosystem. If we can bring that all back into the loving nature, or empowering all the youth to be into regeneration of regenerative farming through the multi-stakeholder engagement, then we will be able to hear their voice. We will be able to penetrate their needs into the decision-making processes that have been traditionally ignoring them. Traditionally, it has been highly, commanded or highly been influenced by traditional leaders. And we want these people who are going to be the future managers for another 50 years to be involved in these decision-making processes, understand what are the real problems and what would be the coming problems in future, to understand them, critically think them by listening to the traditional leaders, but also to the emerging leaders, and also to the multidisciplinary leaders. At what level, all multi-levels, we have to hear them, we have to bring their voices, we have to, and also at the same time, there is a need for these young people to listen, to grasp, to embed themselves into these problems, and empower them with these strategic skills, so that they can be powerful to apply it for these vital problems, like persistent problems, I would say, and bringing vital solutions. So it is not, and also remember that we are not doing any favor to them. we are actually doing favor to ourselves by inviting them to this multi-stakeholder engagement. It is not a charity. They will be an agent. They will be networking agent. They will be a advocacy agent. And that is what we want. We want them to engage meaningfully and unlock the new economy that could be rooted into this nature, sustainability, dignity, and the shared value that we are talking about. We must be looking this young engagement, but also at the same time embedding those engagement learnings into the actions so that we can see some young laid cocoa cooperatives. We can also see them into training programs, working in hand with the traditional farmers and uplifting the farming systems into some agroecological system or a climate smart agriculture or digital finance. And that is what we want them to design by engaging into multi-stakeholders like universities, NGOs, and cocoa companies, and many others. And it is also, a just way of bringing these young people by putting them into action plan, bringing them practicality nearer to their own intuitions in their thinking. And that can allow us to make changes. And it could also look like young laid, African laid alliances. And that should be, engagement. I have seen already, of course, I've not been in person in Africa, but I see through LinkedIn that there are several young posts being developed by African Union. And I welcome that so much. They are given some voluntary position at the moment to learn and dwell into these, areas, so that even the governments and youth has a power, the power which cannot be, compared to any other traditional power. And they are trendy and they are committed. If they get on the trend of becoming sustainable influencers, then let's see how it will change the whole landscape. So let us bring them into this discussion practically and also invest into them, also asking them to invest into these traditional sectors, which is looking forward, which is asking to become innovative sector, which is asking to be empowered to feed the long coming generations, the huge generations that is coming in, like by 2050 and end of the century. This is all waiting for the young people to dwell into. And so I would ask young people to engage with multiple stakeholders. There is a huge, tremendous power in it. And we are looking forward them to take this all forward as what we has been discovered as theories, and making that making into real practical world. Having said that, thank you very much for listening to me. I will now invite the COFAAA Secretary, Emunal Glue, to talk about investment in youth-led generative research and enterprises. Is Emunal here?
Thank you, Dr.
Yes, thank you very much.
Dear leader, it's an honor for me to speak today on a topic that is both ambitious and deeply helpful: investing in youth-led regenerative research and enterprises. This theme invites us to imagine an economy that doesn't just do less harm, but one that repairs, regenerates, and honors life, placing youth at the heart of a transformation. Before diving into the core of the topic, it's essential to clarify a few key concepts. When we talk about regenerative research, we are referring to research aimed at finding solutions that restore ecosystem, strengthen economy, community resilience, and promote harmony between human and nature. Likewise, youth-led regenerative enterprises are economic initiatives created by young people with a dual mission: to have a positive environmental impact while addressing social challenges. It is a new way of doing business, aligned with the cycle of life and principle of sustainability. Final, the integrated rights framework which underpins our conversation today bring together three essential dimensions: human rights, the rights of nature, and the right of future generation. It represents a deep paradigm shift, placing nature at the center of our economic and political decision. So, why should we invest in time, money, and mentorship in this type of initiative? Because young people innovate differently. In the face of the limitation of traditional models, they invent new solutions that are more local, more inclusive, and more sustainable. Because these regenerative enterprises go beyond profit. They are about ecosystem restoration, social justice, and respect for local knowledge. They offer economic models that give back more to nature than they take. And most importantly, because if you truly want to achieve the sustainable development goals, we must break free from extractive logic and move toward a regenerative economy driven by young change makers. Now, the question is, how can we practically support these young people and their projects? First, by creating dedicated funds for regenerative initiatives, and funding criteria must include not only economic viability, but also positive ecological impact. And second, it is essential to develop mentorship, training, and support programs tailored to their needs. Young people have any idea, but they need network, guidance, and support structure to make those ideas grow. We can also imagine green incubators where young can test, refine, and expand their innovation in an enabling environment. And of course, universities and research centers must open up more to transdisciplinary and regenerative research, creating bridge between science, innovation, and entrepreneurships. To go further, here are some concrete recommendations. First, include youth in the governance of environmental and economic policies. Embed nature's rights in legislation and youth employment policies. Value traditional knowledge and combine it with scientific research for locally rooted solutions. Establish regenerative success indicators that measure more than financial performance alone. In closing my intervention, I would like to leave you with this. The future must not only be sustainable, it must be regenerative. And then will only be possible if We choose young people, find their idea, and support them with a long-term vision. Investing in near-field regeneration research and enterprises means choosing a living economy. It means reconciling humanity with nature and above all offering a renewed sense of hope to future generations. Thank you to
Thank you so much. Thank you. Now I would invite, last but not least, Ethel Ledufe to talk about scaling proven models of sustainability across Africa. Over to you. Ethel has mentioned that she has a low battery, so we may lose her while she's speaking, but welcome over here.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for giving me the floor. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor for me to be on this panel today. I would like to appreciate really greatly everybody on the organization team for all the work and the efforts that was put in place for this meeting to hold today. And thank you very much for the opportunity to be among the speakers. I think among everybody here, I must be among the youngest. Am I the youngest? I might be the youngest presenter today. My name is Ethel Ledufe, like earlier mentioned. I am a professional in communication by formation, and I am very passionate about public speaking, youth leadership, and youth empowerment. And through my activities as a climate advocate, I came in contact with the organization team of today and was given the chance to share on scaling proven actions or models for sustainability across Africa. And I would like to emphasize a little bit on my experience because I fixed the questions or my topic today in form of questions that I'm going to provide answers to. And the first question I would like to ask and then provide an answer to will be, what is working when it comes to sustainable action in Africa right now? What are those activities that are working or that have been proven to work in Africa? And I'm going to dive right into agriculture. In the agricultural sector, we can never overemphasize on agroecology and climate smart farming. We have seen farmers successfully combine traditional knowledge with modern techniques in order to improve on their food products. And this has made it that the society is more sustainable. We have sustainable climate resilience, and there's more food security. And I think countries like Kenya, Burkina Faso, Ethiopia, and Tanzania are good examples of areas where this agroecology is very successful. Another thing I would like to emphasize on will be renewable energy. Through mini grids and solar panels, we have been able to reduce dependency on diesel and biomass. And this reduction has caused a drastic change in the dependency of young Africans or African homes in general on these degradable, on these energy sources that are not good for the environment. And those have reduced pollution and given us more, good energy for usage in Africa. And we have also seen a drastic change when it comes to recycling in Africa, where we have, I would like to quote popular companies like ginger makers in Kenya, who have turned plastic into durable construction materials. This has really reduced, not only them, but many other young innovators have produced a lot of recycling methods in Africa so far, and they are really working. We also have a massive community reforestation. Recently, if we have been observing, we have seen a lot of reforestation, many people planting trees here and there. In Cameroon, for example, we have recently the Commonwealth Student Union that came together with other organizations to plant more than 1,000 trees in various regions of Cameroon. And we have the Youth Network for Climate Action that are planning to do another reforestation in schools with young students in order to celebrate the Earth Day. And this reforestation is one of the activities that are really scaling or that are really growing now that we can observe now in Africa. I think for this should be the answers provided for the first question. The next question is, how can we scale on these actions? How can we re-emphasize on this action to make them to grow, to make them to be more in Africa? And the first thing I would like to say is that community-driven models have proven to be very, very effective in Africa. When you involve the communities, when you involve the local people, you involve the younger generation, the students, we realize that it grows a lot. Grassroots-driven actions have been proven to grow. And another thing is partnerships. We can never, ever underestimate the importance of partnerships, collaboration between both the government, the private sector, and the civil societies, in order for everything to be in alignment and for people to really learn and, emphasize on their actions and everything. And then we have supportive policies, especially policies that remove bureaucratic barriers. Recently we had a very bad experience here where we went to an office and spent like a whole day in the office because we needed some documents signed in order for us to get some stuff done, but the whole day unproductive, no signatures and everything. I think if we can get policies that can make this type of experiences to really stop or to reduce, we are going to really experience a massive change and a massive scale in the actions that have been put in place when it comes to climate and sustainability. And then the most important thing I would like to emphasize on today is youth engagement, because as a youth and as a passionate one, because, every time I can say on a scale of 1 to 10 or on a scale of 100, I spend 80% of my time with the youths. Schools, in universities, in secondary schools, I'm always talking to them, I'm always listening to them, I'm always with them, asking them questions, giving them the opportunity to speak. And I listen and I've noticed that a lot of them really have the enthusiasm to be engaged, but they lack the valuable information, are scared, they're skeptical, and they lack the leadership that can really guide them into doing something for their country or for their community. So I think the way forward will be to invest a lot in educating the youth, especially the younger generation, like from the age range of 14 to 20, so that by the time they get to a place like when they are 24 or 25 like me, they can be able to have the information and the knowledge that can help them participate actively in these sustainable actions. Because we know already, all of us know that the population of Africa is highly filled with this younger generation. And if they are not involved, it means the highest population is uninvolved, which means already that there's a huge segment of the population that is not engaged. So I would just like to conclude by saying that Africa has already proven to sustainability. You can see it every day, how innovation keeps growing, how people keep involving, things keep evolving, but there are some obstacles that we definitely will have to overcome in order for the youth and for everybody to be more engaged. And I just want to leave us with this question. Are we going to provide the younger generation with the skills and the support that they need to build a sustainable Africa? Thank you very much for giving me the chance to speak today, and I hope that I was able to share something valuable to the audience.
Thank you so much. I would like to welcome the President to give some closing remarks. Hello, President. Are you there?
How are you, Dr. Renuka?
Yes. Would you like to give some closing remarks? Thank you.
Sorry about that. Okay, nice. Ladies and gentlemen, let me appreciate every speakers for a brilliant contributions. Let me also appreciate Dr. Renuka for this opportunity given, and every speakers that have spoken brilliantly. And this actually creates one standing issues about every decisions as far as cocoa ecosystems are concerned is about making sure that the planet health, the ecosystems take the center stage. Whatever practices, like I said, whatever we are doing at COFAAA level, it aligns with all our visions. And when I listen to brilliant presentations from every speakers that have spoken, including the Mutai, I realized that there is a future and we have a collaborators as far as cover vision of achieving this this youth-centric approach to nature preservations. We have a lot of people that definitely we are going to be collaborating on, and you can count on us that we will definitely be very pushful, be very deliberate. Thank you to achieve this nation's rights. And I think this philosophy is something that we still need a kind of serious sensitizations to upscale it and to look at the best approach. For example, to make sure that whatever activities the nation's right approach are what at the center stage. And like I promised that we are going to subscribe, we are going to endorse, we are going to make sure that whatever areas to deepen this across African levels, we definitely do it. Thank you very much. We are also looking forward of getting in touch with every speakers to make sure that all your presentations are well harnessed and utilized for the purpose of uplifting the ecosystems at the African level. Thank you very much. And we are also looking forward for more partnerships, for more incisive approach like this that brings every players closer to achieving a nature-oriented protective ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, President. Over to you, Mumta, for the last word.
Yeah, so likewise, I was blown away by everybody's speeches and also by the level of support that there is for the nature's rights approach. I really feel, that we are on the cusp of something new, and to bring this new metamorphic change requires deeper shifts, and this shift has to be not just in laws and policies, not just in taking action, but in our being as well. We need to embody this consciousness that our ancestors had of interconnection. And I feel everybody here today brought that out so well in your speeches. This whole kind of degenerative cycle that brings a concentration of wealth and power in the hands of a few has to end, and something more life affirming can be created by us taking the initiative. So I'm so grateful to COFAAA for standing behind this. That's 70% of the global cocoa market. I mean, this is really huge, and if we can work together towards bringing these new frameworks and new approaches, we can help our societies to evolve in a good way and a thriving future for our future generations, as well as the future generations of all the life forms that are around us that we coexist in harmony with. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for sponsorship and support and all the speakers who have put their time and energy here. So thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye for now.